Hello, everyone, and welcome to the start of the 2021 Osuketch World Cup Group Stage Drawings and Mappool Showcase. I'm Doland, joined by my man, JBH.
Hello everyone, it's been a while, but welcome back. Hope you've all been doing well and ready for some more fruit catching action. There's another 32 teams, another year, and another one winner, and it all starts right here with seedings and drawings, as you said.
Yes, and JBH, we've just gotten a little sneak peek ourselves at the seedings, and this year, oh my, the group stage will be spicy. We can promise you that.
Yeah, we've had some pretty interesting groups, thinking back to Indonesia, China, some good matchups there, like Australia, Sweden, Germany, Brazil, all being like in similar groups, but we have some really kind of upturned group seedings here right now with some very surprising high seeds and low seeds as well.
Yes, and that also means some surprising top seeds. But anyway, we're now going to go ahead and get this show on the road, starting with the unseeded teams.
So yes, another 8 teams flitting in for the first entry. This is going to be Colombia, Denmark, Malaysia, Norway, Peru, Singapore, Sweden, and the UK. And Denmark are going to be first up in Group A. This is their 8th appearance in CWC. They've participated in all of the previous 5 World Cups where they've been an unseeded team, and they've been knocked out in group stages each time.
So Denmark looking to change their fate this year and get out of groups for the first time. Hopefully the group stage drawings is kind to them as we get going with Group B. And it will be Colombia landing in Group B.
Colombia with their 5th entry in CWC. They've been a low seed in 2 of the previous World Cups, 2020 and 2019, but are dropping down again to unseeded here. They had a 3rd place finish in 2013, one of the very first World Cups where they were a joint team with Argentina, but it's been a little while since they've made it into a knockout stage.
Yeah, and Colombia actually coming in at number 32 in the seedings, just making the cut for the World Cup, getting drawn into Group B. So for Group C, it will be Malaysia, historically a strong country, Malaysia, landing in Group C.
Yeah, Malaysia are always one of those unseeded teams that no one really wants to have to face up against. They were a low seed in 2016 and didn't participate in 2019. I think they just missed out on the cut, maybe the 33rd team. And in each of the other 3 years in the last 5, they've been unseeded. But they historically have a very strong core group of players, people like Future Miku. So it really depends on if they can get people to rally around them, if they can fill out their roster and perform well as a whole team unit.
And we've seen them be a part of many a group of death before as an
absolutely
team, because they are always feared. Even as an unseed, they always compete. So moving on to Group D, Malaysia will land in Group C. Group D will be Norway.
So similar to Denmark, Norway also making their 8th appearance in the CWC. They were unseeded last year. They were low seed in 2019, but they were actually a high seed in 2018. I think that was a year when they had a very strong roster with maybe Razor Sharp, probably Groex, and some other people like that. I'm not sure whether all of those people are still playing the game and will be in. I'm assuming not if they're in unseeded this time around, but they have made it into knockout stages, I think once or maybe 2 times before. So they know what it takes to make it out of group stages.
Yes, I know Sisef joining the roster for them this year as well. Very excited to see him play. Moving on to Group E will be Sweden.
Sweden, definitely a team who have made it out of out of groups and into knockout stages multiple times. And I think last year, in fact, they were a low seed, and that was the first time in 5 years they hadn't made it out of group stages and into the knockouts. Not a team that has historically gone hugely far into knockouts, but definitely a team that can hold their own under pressure. They're a team that's always involved in these kind of close group stage tiebreakers and regularly manage to beat teams that are higher seeded or higher favored than them. Definitely not a team to sleep on in that Group E.
They are definitely very competitive in the group stage, that's for certain. We've seen them be a part of many weird things, including the time where they played the same map 4 times in a row against Germany.
We always remember that little tidbit of information. Definitely a great moment from World Cup history.
Never forget. On to Group F, it will be Peru.
So a big welcome back to Peru for their first appearance in the Catch World Cup since 2016, where they were unseeded. Haven't managed to get a team together in either of the previous 4 World Cups, either through a lack of kind of their core roster players or not having enough people active at any one time. But definitely a lot of strong hard rock players in particular, and going to be really interesting to see if they're one of these unseeded teams that a lot of people sleep on because they haven't seen any of their players, they don't have a lot of information on them, and they can kind of trick people out. So yeah, great to have them back and look forward to see what they're capable of.
A very exciting return in Peru. So on to Group G. It will be the United Kingdom. JBH, take it away.
Yeah, so I haven't seen too much about a lot of the teams, but obviously UK, my home country, I know a little bit about. Definitely Matt H is still captaining this year, but I'm pretty sure that nearly everyone on the roster, apart from potentially Baron, is new to not just CWC, but also a lot of very new players that have just come up in the last year as well. So definitely looking forward to that. And of course, without being biased, best of luck to them. Hope they do well and make it back into knockouts, which they last did in 2019.
Yes, they're looking to make it back. Will the group stage drawings be kind to them? And that means Group H, it will be Singapore, rounding out our unseeded teams this year.
Yeah, Singapore didn't participate in 2019. They've been unseeded in all of the other most recent years, apart from 2016, where they were low seeded and they made it out to the first round of the knockout stages. Again, some very core, strong players like Heyang Erica, Love Math Boy that are very kind of underrated and can easily come back from not playing for a while and immediately find their skill again. So similar to Malaysia, definitely a team that the maybe lower ranked, low seeded teams will be slightly worried about if one ends up in their group.
Also, yes, that's the low seed going across the screen. I know you may be a little confused, but this year, the low seed consists of Belgium, Finland, Vietnam, Mexico, Brazil, Japan, Argentina, and Thailand.
If that doesn't scare you for any of the unseeded teams, seeing some of those teams that you could get placed with as the low seed, then you're either very confident or you're not looking to go too far in this tournament. And so, Thailand is going to be our first in Group A.
Yeah, Thailand landing in Group A here with Denmark.
So I believe Thailand didn't participate last year. I'm not quite sure if they had... A lot of their players were inactive at the time and they weren't able to bring the roster together. But they were unseeded in 2019 and low seeded in 2018. But I don't believe they have a recent knockout stage appearance. They definitely have the potential with some of their players to make it into a knockout stage, but it really depends on who they end up in a group with, because you can be overperforming, but if you end up in a very difficult group, then all the performance in the world might still not allow you to advance.
Indeed. We're going to move on to Group B. Joining Colombia, it will be Brazil in Group B.
Well, that looks like the start of a very friendly scheduling effort for the organizers, so hopefully some more American nations appearing in Group B for their sake. Brazil have been either low or unseeded in most of the recent World Cups all the way back to 2016. Most of their efforts have ended in group stage, but in 2019, as an unseeded team, they made it to the 9th to 12th spot, winning a knockout match, which was really impressive to see them go as far. And I think Sweden also were an
Yeah,
unseeded
sweet.
team that made it into knockouts in that tournament as well. It was kind of a race between the two of them to see which of the unseeded teams would go the furthest, and Brazil did win out. Very strong core, hidden, and also hard rock specialists there on that.
All right, so moving on to Group C. Malaysia will play Belgium. Oh, this is the start of a very potentially scary group. Belgium into Group C with Malaysia.
Yeah, Belgium last year were kind of the glory of the unseeded teams, the one unseeded team that managed to make it out of groups, and everyone wanted to see them go as far as possible. And they had a team that was skilled but inexperienced, and definitely the knockout stage might have starstruck them a little bit. But this year is a very different year for Belgium. Like, they have proven potential. Like,
Absolutely.
it won't be a surprise to see them in knockout stages again.
I mean, what's insane about Belgium's kind of just run they've been on this past year is that they were unseeds that made it last year, and now they come in at 17 in the rankings, basically almost equaling their top 16 performance.
Yeah, they're not just any kind of sneaking into low seed. They are very, very close to breaking into that high seed category. But they can't think about what would have happened if we were a high seed, because they've got a potentially very difficult group. Malaysia, one of the stronger unseeded teams, I think you would agree. So they've got to go in guns blazing.
Indeed. So moving on to Group D, Norway. They will play Mexico.
I thought we were going to get Vietnam there, but it just trickled over to Mexico at the final stages. So if you're looking for a team with proven knockout stage performance in the low seeds, then Mexico are definitely the team for you. They 13th to 16th, 7th to 8th, 9th to 12th, 4th, and then 7th to 8th again. So they've finished at pretty much every possible stage in the Catch World Cup apart from the podium. They were 4th in 2019, losing out right at the very end to, I believe, was that Chile in that 2019 tournament? And it was a very, very close match. So, sad to see Mexico knocked down a little bit into the low seed, but that's a bit of a terrifying preposition for everyone else that might end up in that Group D. They are a very strong team.
Yep. But moving on to Group B, joining Sweden, it will be Argentina.
Yeah, Argentina back into low seeded after being unseeded in the previous year. They haven't made the knockout stages since 2017. They've got a lot of very strong players, but they've frequently struggled to field them all at the same place and at the same time, which has been a bit of a problem. So maybe this year is the year that they fire on all cylinders once again. And as I said when talking about Colombia, they were third placed in that joint effort with Colombia in 2013, but it has been a little while since they made the knockouts, and they were a top seed in 2016, and they've been low or unseeded since. So a return to the glory days for them would certainly be welcome.
Moving on to Group F, joining Peru, it will be Finland.
Yeah, F is for Finland, it seems. They've had a very up and down roller coaster ride with seedings, being unseeded, low, high, high, and then low again in their previous 5 encounters. They had a highest finish of 9th to 12th in 2019, and all but one of their other entrants in the past 5 years have all been out in the group stages. A very, very high skill team, lots of specialists of a hard rock with small circle sizes, some very good double time players as well. It'll be interesting to see if they have 3 people that can all play on the same mod in particular, because that is an area where I think historically they have struggled against some of the stronger, higher and top seeded teams.
So moving on to Group G, playing the United Kingdom, Japan into Group G.
Yeah, Japan, another team with lots of scary players, but have just not quite managed to field them all in the same place in the same time. Low seeded last year, unseeded the year before. Low in 2018, where they made it out into knockout stages, but they were a top seed in 2017. So you can see that there is definitely the potential of that roster there if they can have everyone all up and ready to go. And yeah, Great Britain going to have a little bit of a tricky time facing Japan if they are in that prime position.
And that means Vietnam will be landing in Group H with Singapore.
Yeah, again, nice scheduling format this time in the Asian hemisphere with Vietnam joining Singapore. Vietnam have been, again, low, high, low, and then in 2017 and prior they have not participated. So this will be their 4th appearance at the Catch World Cup. And despite being a high seed in 2019, they haven't actually made it out of group stages yet. So this would be a nice 4th times the charm if they could do that.
And now, scrolling across your screen are this year's high-seeded teams. Kicking it off with the Philippines, Indonesia, the Russian Federation, Chile, the United States, Taiwan, Australia, and the Netherlands. So, landing into Group A with Thailand and Denmark, it will be Indonesia.
Okay, so Indonesia, a team that have had both great glory and incredible heartbreak in recent Catch World Cups. I think it was 2016 when they finished 2nd. They were 3rd in 2017, 4th in 2018, but then in 2019 they were in a group with, I think, China and Hong Kong being a low seed at the time, and ended up getting knocked out in group stage. They bounced back last year to a 7th to 8th placed finish from high seed. So yeah, they will be hoping that it's not too terrible of a group. With Thailand and Denmark, I think they'll be feeling reasonably happy with how things have gone so far. But again, if they pick up a very dangerous top seed in that Group A, it could be deja vu all over again for them.
Indeed. So moving on to Group B, joining Brazil and Colombia, it will be Australia.
Australia, if a European nation gets thrown in there, then I feel sorry for whoever has to schedule that group. But yeah, Australia, a high seed again. They've been low seed the previous 2 years, high seed in 2018, but again, no knockout stage appearances in quite a while, although this is their 7th CWC. It'll be the first time, as I said, in 3 years that they've appeared as a high seed. And with Brazil and Colombia, I think they will favour themselves at the moment a reasonable shot of that knockout stage appearance. They're avoiding some of the exceptionally dangerous unseeded teams like Malaysia, Peru, and Brazil. Whilst a great team, I think Australia would say they are fairly even or slightly better than Brazil, perhaps.
Moving on to Group C. Will it be a group of death with Belgium and Malaysia, the Philippines?
That is a very unfortunate high seed for any team, and that Group C is looking incredibly dangerous right now. Philippines were a top seed in both of the previous 2 years. They had a bit of an early exit last year, the first stage of the knockouts, but they made it to 7th and 8th place in the 2019 tournament. All of their other previous appearances, even when they were a high seed or a top seed, they were out in group stages. So it took them a little while to find their footing in the Catch World Cup, but they are definitely a regular appearance in knockout stages now.
On to Group D, joining Norway and Mexico. It will be Chile.
So Chile have been 5th or 6th or 3rd are their previous 4 World Cup appearances. They were a top seed in all of them. And yeah, it's been a little while since they secured that podium place, which they've done 2 times in 2019 and 2018, but have never quite managed to push the upper echelons of the podium. They've never been far away, and they're always a team that even when they lose, they still look really strong. And that's going to be a very tough competition as a high seed for Mexico and Norway in their group. I think this year they are missing Line QTXZ. I believe he's a Mappool selector this year, so that might have contributed to their slight reduction in seeding. But they have a lot of very exceptionally experienced tournament players to fill that spot.
They also did win in 2013.
That's even longer ago, but yes, you are correct.
I was like, I think that counts as the upper echelon of the podium. But Group E is the United States joining Argentina and Sweden. And there's some big changes to the US this year.
Yeah, you didn't expect the US to be a high seed, huh? They've been a top seed in, I think, every World Cup since I can remember, certainly in the past 5 years. And very similar to Chile, they've had a little bit of a, on either side of the podium or not, finishing 5th, 6th, 4th, 2nd, 5th, 6th again in 2019, and then 3rd in 2020. So they've collected prizes of all shapes and sizes and colours, but not that coveted top step.
Yes, never the top step, but this year they're missing Rossold, but Colin has returned to the roster, and Kisetsu Natori getting his first ever shot at the World Cup. So moving on to Group F. Joining Finland and Peru, it will be the Netherlands in Group F.
Yeah, Netherlands having been a high seed in each of the previous 4 World Cups, and they've made the knockout stages in all of their previous 4 appearances, except for last year, where they were in a very interesting and spicy group with ourselves, the United Kingdom, Russian Federation, and South Korea, where South Korea beat all of us fairly handily, but then the rest of us picked up a point off of each other, and it went down to like games won versus games lost, and they very, very narrowly missed out on that slot to the Russian Federation. So yeah, definitely looking for a return to the knockout stages, which was something of a normality for them in previous years.
Also with a slightly different roster, missing Sarton and Wesley, but featuring Chatty, Dutchman, Kevral, I know made the team. So still maintaining that high seed is very impressive to have such a roster swap like that. But a Group G with Japan and the United Kingdom, it will be Taiwan.
Yeah, Taiwan have been either a high or a top seed for each of the previous 4 years. They've always been a team that have performed really well until they come across, the really, really strong teams, the teams that go on to take 3rd, 2nd, 1st, etc. And I think it's been a lot of bad luck on their part, because they always seem to come across the Chinas and the USs and the Indonesias of the Catch World Cup probably earlier than they should, and never quite seem to be able to show their full potential. They're a high seed again this time around, and they finished in the 9th to 12th spot in all of the previous 5 years, despite being a low seed, a high seed, and a top seed in across all of those tournaments. They always seem to finish 9th to 12th. But if they can avoid some of the, or even beat some of the really, really strong teams, then a higher position is definitely theirs for the taking.
And filling out the high seeds in Group H is the Russian Federation.
Yeah, so the Russian Federation, as I said, squeaking into the knockout stages in that Group A in the previous year's tournament, where they were the low seed. That was the first time that they had made the knockout stages in 4 years. So 2016, they made the knockout stages, then they went through a dry run, exiting in groups for 3 years, and then they made it back into the knockout stages again last year, and they're looking to stay there and not return back to that group stage exit, especially as they are now a high seed once again.
And now, scrolling across the screen are the top seeds this year. South Korea, France, Italy, Germany, China, Canada, Hong Kong, Poland, in that order, your top seed.
Yeah, so a lot of teams in here that are definitely still strong teams, but you wouldn't maybe have expected to be in the top seed bracket. Let's see where they all end up.
Into Group A, it will be Hong Kong.
Aside from Denmark, that's looking like a fairly nice Eastern scheduling with Thailand, Indonesia, and Hong Kong all appearing together. Hong Kong, a very interesting team. They were top seed in 2018, but in every one of the previous 5 World Cups, they've always been a high seed that only just missed out on appearing in the kind of the top seed of the bracket, but they always make it into the knockout stages, and they are frequently beating teams that people would really say they don't have any right to do so. 5th, 6th place finishes and 7th, 8th place finishes in all of the previous 4 years. and a lot of incredibly experienced veteran tournament players just carry them through really any situation. Hong Kong are a team when even if I had them like 4 or 5-0 down, I would still be afraid of them because they have the potential to come back from any situation.
Yeah, and they are tournament veterans. So moving on to Group B with Australia, Brazil, and Colombia. It will be France, our second highest seeded team this year.
That makes a fairly terrible schedule in Group B with a European, 2 South American, and then Australia. But yeah, we'll leave that one to the organisers. I apologise in advance. France, top seed again. They were high, top in alternating fashion for their previous 4 appearances. They didn't do quite as well as some people expected them to last year, finishing at the 9th, 12th spot. But in 2019 and 2018, they were very, very close to that podium, coming in the 5th to 6th place position. 2017 was a bit of a horror year for them, but thankfully it has not been repeated, that group stage exit that they were all very upset about, rightfully so. And France are a team, again, lots of very experienced players, lots of excellent hard rock players in particular, who can really perform on maps that other players would never even think about playing before the tournament began. And frequently one of the kind of strongest European teams, one of the ones that go furthest in the tournament.
Also with the return of Titobus.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting one. A player of legendary renown in not only European, but also just catch play in general over the past 8 years or so.
Some exciting Group B. Now moving on to Group C with Philippines, Belgium, and Malaysia. It's going to be Italy, our third highest seeded team this year.
Yeah, so Italy managed to make the 4th place spot last year, and in all of their previous 4 appearances, they were knocked out in group stages, and they were low or unseeded. But last year saw a real resurgence from Italy. They got everyone in the right place at the right time and gave the tournament of their lives. They only missed out on that podium in the loser semi-final to the USA, who put on a very, very dominant performance. But they beat Chile, they beat who else did they beat? They beat Indonesia in a tiebreaker, they beat Taiwan in a tiebreaker. It was an excellent year to be a fan of Italy in the Catch World Cup, and they'll be looking to repeat that, although maybe with a few fewer tiebreakers needed this time.
I will say, though, they have landed in kind of a group of death scenario here.
That is a difficult-looking Group C with Malaysia, Belgium, and the Philippines, I will agree.
So moving on to Group D with Chile, Mexico, and Norway, it will be Canada.
Okay, so Canada making their 9th appearance in the Catch World Cup. They've had a very, very up and down time of seedings in previous years. From high to low to unseeded to high, and now finally appearing as the top seed. They had a barren run of 3 years from 2017 to 2019 where they didn't make it out of groups, but last year they did manage to push their way and win a couple of knockout games as well. So yeah, a lot of very experienced double-time players in particular, I believe.
Yeah, Canada coming in at number 6 this year, landing in Group D. Landing in Group B with the US, Argentina, and Sweden. It is Germany. Oh, it was almost South Korea there. Just tipped over to Germany at the last second.
Can we have a repeat of that Germany-Sweden game from 2017 that you mentioned at the start, Doland, where we play the same map 5 times in a row? Yes. That would be quite exciting. But yeah, Germany, top seed in each of the previous 3 years. They were a high seed in 2017, but a top again in 2016, where they actually finished in 3rd place. So they have podium pedigree, although that was a little while ago. In all of the previous 4 years, they've finished either between 7th and 12th. So definitely a team that has a lot of potential. And again, making a top seed appearance once again. It's really telling that Germany are a top seed that haven't made it to kind of like the 5th, the 6th like the kind of the end of the losers bracket or even the top of the winners bracket in quite a while, because it shows how strong the competition from the other top and obviously some of the high and low seeded teams is.
Yeah, I know Germany's got some historic rivals there in that group with them, so that should be an interesting group to watch. But moving on to Group F, with the Netherlands, Finland, and Peru, it'll be China. China coming in at number 5 this year. Germany was number 4, by the way.
Yeah, so China, we're getting into the kind of the business end now, where all of the teams don't want that team, with all due respects, in their group because it's just such a mountain to climb. China, a team with, I mean, you don't even need me to introduce their tournament pedigree. They've been either first or second in all of the previous Catch World Cups dating back to, I think, about 2015. They won in 2018 and 2016 and have come second to South Korea in 2017, 19, and 20. And I think China are a team that you could cryogenically freeze them for a year, wake them up one day before the tournament, and by the time the next day the tournament started, they would probably be at the same or better level of skill than they were the night before. They just never seem to age, never seem to degrade, never seem to lose any of the skill, even if they don't play for a year. And it's fascinating watching them go up the gears every year because they just never slow down.
However, they have fallen a few ranks on the seeding chart this year with a new roster, missing some old players, but still with Dusk and Crystal, and the new players, Cianis and Koviar, I know are on the roster, are quite skilled. So this is actually a very interesting group in my eyes. Group F here with China, Netherlands, Finland, Peru. I think it's going to be very interesting. On to Group G with Taiwan, Japan, and the United Kingdom. It is going to be our defending champion, South Korea.
And I'm sure that's not a team that Matt and the rest of the UK boys wanted to see again in their group. They're going to be facing South Korea for the second year in a row, this time with Japan and Taiwan for added company. That is not really the position that Britain wanted to be in. I'm fairly confident of that. But yeah, it is going to be South Korea in Group G, as you said. The defending champions of the past 2 years. They've won the tournament, I think, 4 times at this point. In 2020, 2019, and 2017 most recently. They don't have a lot of other podium silver or bronze wear, because the times when they're not quite stepping up and they're missing a few of their team members, they've been beaten out by excellent performances by other teams. But South Korea are the top seed for a reason. They're number 1 seeds for a reason. And just like I said for China, they're just monsters of the game that never seem to age, never seem to lose any skill. They just get better and better, even when you think a skill ceiling has been reached.
And moving on to Group H, it will be our final top-seeded team. Seeded number 8, Poland.
Yeah, so Poland, once again, for the second year in a row, I think they avoid the curse of China, where they always get either a group with China or knocked out by China. But yeah, looking really good for them to be a top seed. I believe this is the first time they've been a top seed since 2017. Frequently, they've made it into knockout stages for every one of the previous 5 World Cups. The only time they won knockout stage groups recently is in 2018 and 2016. So definitely as that top seed, even as the lowest seeded top seed, should still be looking at a strong knockout performance. And yeah, that is our 32 teams. Dolan, if you'd like to recap them for us once more, please.
In Group A, it will be Hong Kong, Indonesia, Thailand, and Denmark. In Group B, France, Australia, Brazil, and Colombia. In Group C, Italy, the Philippines, Belgium, and Malaysia. In Group D, Canada, Chile, Mexico, Norway. In Group E, Germany, the United States, Argentina, and Sweden. In Group F, China, Netherlands, Finland, and Peru. In Group G, South Korea, Taiwan, Japan, and the United Kingdom. And in Group H, Poland, the Russian Federation, Vietnam, and Singapore. The stage is set, JBH.
So looking at these teams, which groups do you think are the most interesting? I'm picking up Group C as looking potentially very strong. The unseeded and low seeds look kind of really quite tricky. I think Group F and Group E also both look very spicy. I think, obviously, Group F, China is going to be very favored, but I think other than that, the remaining kind of 3 spots across those 2 groups could be very wide open in particular, and I'm looking forward to those 2 groups a lot.
You know, I think there's a possibility that we could see Belgium and Netherlands run into each other round of 16, because Group C and F, those 2 groups do have a connection for round of 16.
Well, that would require either Netherlands to beat China or Belgium to top their group, both of which might be slightly difficult, but I would certainly love to see.
Anyway,
but yeah, that is going to do it for our drawings.
Yeah, that will do it for the drawings. Now we need to give these teams a map pool to play. So I will be taking my leave, and Sekre will be coming in to join JBH to reveal the map pools.
Hello, hello. How are you guys doing today? Man, that was a spicy drawing, I'm going to be honest.
Wasn't it just? Yeah, it looked very interesting. How are you feeling about your group in particular, Seko?
You know, I'm feeling pretty decent, honestly.
You think good?
Yeah, I'm honestly... we had the little scare when it was hovering over Korea for like half a second. I was like, oh, no, 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 no. But then it swapped to Germany over on the last second. I was like, oh, thank God. You know, no offense to the German players, but I'm sure everyone can agree nobody wants to play against Korea in group stage.
It's a bit of a demoralizing feeling. I can confirm that from last year.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But yeah, we're going to be moving on to our map pool showcase. So thank you very much, Doland, for your coverage with me of the drawings.
No problem. Thank you. I will be taking my leave. Bye-bye.
So, Seko, have you managed to play any of these maps thus far? Or are you just seeing them for the first time as I am?
You know, I see the map pool. I haven't played the map pool. So we're going in completely blind, except for one map.
We're going to be visualizing it in our mind as we go.
Oh yeah.
But yes, I think we can take it away and see what our players are going to be performing against. Some very minor changes to map pools for this year. Group stages are going to have a slightly reduced map pool size, so we're only going to have, I believe, 4 no mod picks. And then the other hidden hard rock and double time are all going to retain the size of 3, and there will be just the 1 ban still. So if you only see 4 no mod maps and then we start moving on to hidden, don't panic. It's completely intentional.
Yep, and as the group stages get done and we move on to the round of 16, round of 8, we'll get more maps, more no-mod maps, etc, etc. So that way, we'll have more maps for players to pick, get to that little best of 13.
Okay, here we go. So, making the first appearance in definitely the World Cup, but also for a lot of people, if they didn't follow the addition of Souvenir to the Beatmap nominators recently, this is the appearance of a relatively new mapper, definitely appearing on the scene at the perfect time and getting a map selected for CWC. This is going to be versus Morimori Atsushi. I believe that's Srokus or X-Rokus, I'm not quite sure how you pronounce that. But yeah, excellent way to start things off with No Mod 1.
Oh yeah, I think it is Zrokus. But anyways, we're coming in at CS4, AR 9.1, very standard. About a little bit of a harder rain, I'd say, coming in at 9.1. You can see these 1.4 streams coming in a little bit more dense than your average rain.
I don't think there are too many teams in the World Cup these days that would struggle excessively with group stages, but there are certainly some kind of very dense sections that follow hyperdashes where you could miss out on quite a lot of score. There was one that we're seeing just now that could definitely make the difference between victory and defeat, and a lot of very strong hyperdashes for a rain I'm seeing right here, which could definitely be overshot with some nerves. And I believe that was also a kind of a tapped quarter regular dash.
It was. I saw that. That was a little interesting to play. We don't usually see those in rain maps. Usually you start seeing them in overdoses, so could catch a few players off on those little vertical sliders.
Some of the dashed kind of between sliders look all like fairly normally spaced and not too problematic. But if anyone's leaving notes too early or too late, they could definitely miss slider ends or slider starts there, because you are expected to be holding dash throughout the duration of the entire slider. And changing speed in the middle of a slider, I don't know about how it is for you, but for me is certainly something that I frequently miss on when I'm trying to score for full combos on maps like this.
Oh yeah, definitely catch you off guard sometimes. Got a nice big spinner right there, probably about 5-6 seconds. It's going to come in pretty clutch. I am assuming that we're going to see quite a few FCs in group stage on this at least.
Yeah, I too thought that was the end, but it turns out that this is a full version, so we're 3 3/4 minutes long. So yeah, still got about 800 combo left to go, I'd imagine. So no false finishes. Make sure you play the map pool through during practice. I'm very interested by a lot of these patterns which stand still and then move into curves. I think a lot of mappers in the modders in the meta would say like, "Ooh, there's like disturbing flow there," but I mean, you don't really have to move. It just visually looks like you would be expected to move when you don't.
Definitely, and as people in the chat are saying, this is pretty hard for a rain, if I'd say so myself. You know, if this was in qualified and I saw this as rain, I'd be like, that's pretty hard. So we are seeing the map pool get a little bit harder as time goes on, of course.
Some little tap dash or walking doubles there as well that could catch people out. It's very easy to see a lot of notes that are kind of close together and think, oh, I can just stand still for these, but you're slightly misplaced at the beginning and end up standing still as the notes tumble over the edge of your plate. It's never a nice feeling.
There's one pattern that I keep seeing, and it's always the vertical sliders that are like just a little bit further away from the note after a 1-4. Those are going to be really hard for players to hit, I feel. It's usually not something that you see in group stage with that kind of precise movement in the quick stops.
Another spinner at the end there, which isn't actually the end, but at least that one doesn't have too much of a decrease in intensity to kind of tell you the map's over, but it's actually not, which is nice. So yeah, that's going to be No Mod 1. Moving on to number 2, Sinnoh map, our first of our custom maps created for the tournament. This is going to be Fragile from Vivid Bad Squad. This one a shorter map at 2 minutes in length. It's going to be quite a lot slower and also lower approach rate at 8.8.
Yep, we have Mr. Dave coming in, our own veteran map pool selector. Give a shout out to our boy Dave. Anyways, yeah, it is a bit slower, as you said, AR 8.8. Going to be seeing a bit more of a technical style, as you kind of expect with a No Mod 2. Sinnoh is really good at making these kind of like kind of technical, but not so technical that you're like, what is this? So they kind of feel really good, especially for a group stage.
I mean, he had the term Sinnoh sliders basically kind of named after himself because of his kind of creativity and usage of slider shapes, and especially slow sliders, as you said. So it should really come as no surprise that a map like this is appearing in the group stage. This really isn't as slow as the BPM and the density in kind of infer. It just looks much slower compared to the map that we've seen before. The density is pretty high. I see a lot of fairly strong jumps here, and the hyperdashes in particular are also quite sharp and feature a lot of direction changes. So definitely not something that players should be sleeping on.
Yeah, on these hyperdashes, some pretty hard anti-flow. There's also some back-to-back hyperdashes as well, which you usually wouldn't see in a platter at this BPM. Or no, that's not platter, this is master. Misread that.
I think no mod platters are a little bit beyond the Catch World Cup, at least in the modern era. But
we could always go back in time a little bit.
I'm sure there's some Drafura or ZH Steven platters out there that would trip up a lot of very experienced modern players.
You know, it would be pretty interesting to see. What if we had just a platter in group stage no mod one day? Man. But yeah, that was our first custom map made by Sinnoh. Thank you, Sinnoh, to making that map.
Thank you for sweet wiggles. Nomod 3 is going to be Akira Complex Homaju Feat Yukako. This is connected. And just in case that title wasn't long enough, this is the WRLD remix, and it is also a cut version. So this is winning the competition for most tags you can add on to a song title. And this is by Momox.
Yep, another custom map made by Momox. Been stepping up in the catch scene recently. Usually when you think of PH, you think, oh, James and Crowley. But Momox is coming up. He's been mapping a lot, usually making really good sets.
It's funny you mentioned Crowley, actually, because I see a lot of long, slow sliders with really awkward droplet patterns that would be very kind of not out of place in Crowley's mapping style in particular. This is quite slow, 85 BPM, but CS5 is going to be the watchword here. So this is more of a precision pick. Again, only 2 minutes long, but quite harsh flow, and a lot of these, a lot of the shorter slider shapes, like the half sliders or the quarter sliders, not too problematic. Anything long, you're asking for accuracy drops.
Oh yeah, I'm also seeing a lot of very far dashes as well. I'm noticing that little pattern right there with the 1/3 switch up. It's going to be pretty hard for some players to hit that transition, I feel.
Yeah, hyper dashes became really strong, and there's some very kind of high slider velocity back and forth sliders there, which can be very easy to miss. Thankfully, the patterning looks like fairly consistent, so once you've seen a pattern once, you know what's expecting. But as we can see, some of these hyper sliders have hyper dashes on the kind of start and repeat here, so you can tell the slider velocity is definitely increasing. So even though the pattern itself is staying fairly consistent, the intensity is building all the way throughout.
I'm gonna expect a lot of droplet misses on that one, to be honest. Looked pretty hard for the droplets.
Thank you, Yep, for playing that one. I'm not quite sure which map selector that was, but good to see we got a little bit of humour ticking along. Yep. And Ode Oranvu is going to be our fourth and final Nomod pick, and this is going to be the only convert from our selection this year, Riol and Encurs. Again, I've never known how to pronounce that, but if anyone wants to correct me, please feel free.
Yeah, this map, I think a lot of catch players will be familiar with this song. This song used to be one of the more popular kind of converts that was played back in, I think, 2016, maybe 2017. Of course, Riol coming in, very fun to play maps from her.
Let me just do a little quick time check on this one. Ranked 1st of June 2016. You have a good memory, Mr. Seka.
Oh yeah, this used to be one of my favorite maps. I don't think it was this difficulty, but it was a difficulty above this. So I remember playing this quite a lot. Yeah, we have quite a few far of the 1/4 dashes, and as you would expect in a Riol song, it's just a bit of an alternator style coming at 134 BPM. So these 1/4 dashes are a bit further than you would see in any catch maps.
I'm not quite sure why this is, a lot of people picked up, this is displaying as a star rating of -1. It is 4.24 according to the website and our notes. So don't be afraid, this map will not award negative PP for any scores that you set on it. I think that's just a course of it being a converted map from Osu. Yeah, a lot of these standard kind of patterns that you would see from converted beat maps here, where the slider is slightly slanted in the direction away from where you're intending to be traveling, and you want to be able to stand still so that you can get best purchase on the strong dash to the next note. But if a hyper dash takes you kind of slightly too far, you might have to wiggle, which makes things maybe either easier or harder depending on your play style.
Yeah, we had a little section there that was pretty much mostly vertical sliders, then they had some wiggles mixed in there, and it's like, ooh, it could be a little challenging for some parts. That wiggle right there is gonna get quite a few misses, I'm expecting.
Yeah, this is reminding me a little bit of Tengaku from last year's group stage pool, where a lot of the map is not hugely difficult, but then you have these very far jumps and these kind of tight wiggles that especially in a fairly long map like this is. I think it's just under 3 minutes. If you're not remembering where the difficult sections are, they can definitely catch you out.
Oh yeah, and because it's a convert, it's not really consistent with the difficult sections. You can't just remember, oh, the song peaks here. It's going to be a hard pattern next. Can't really do that with the convert, so it's much harder to do that.
So Nomad is knocked away. 4 Nomads from the group stage. We're moving on to Hidden, and it's going to be Xerox, one of our long-standing members, of course, and a very veteran mapper, appearing in the CWC once again. He's had quite a lot of hidden maps appearing in the earlier stages of CWC in previous years, and this year is no exception. This is a custom map, Tian Di Kai Pi from M2U, and this is going to be 2 minutes in length, 150 BPM, and an approach rate of 8.4, so slightly on the slower side of things.
Oh yeah, if anyone has played Xerox maps before, you know that they're going to be pretty tricky. He doesn't map like many other mappers do nowadays. He uses a lot of these patterns that you're seeing right here, where it's very symmetrical in a sense. Oh yeah, these wiggles at AR 8.4 with Hidden are going to be pretty challenging.
Yeah, this is the kind of map that I would quite enjoy, but I know that my tastes with low AR Hidden are not really like most people's, so yeah, have fun with this one.
Oh yeah, those wiggles too right there, these ones right here, they seem like they're just out of walk distance too, so you have to hold dash on them, but not hold dash fully, because if you hold dash all the way, you're gonna miss. So those are a bit more difficult than they actually look. Also, I have noticed the replay difficulty name, ha ha ha. If anyone knows that that's from, you know. I know who played this map. It must have been Line. Shout out to Line.
You just know.
Yeah, you just know based on the map selector.
Yeah, we don't have any knowledge on who selected what maps, only the notes, and as you can tell from these little tidbits of information, if you've been around for a while, you can infer some things. It's always a little nice surprise, trying to work out these little riddles. I can see a lot of people dashing too early, especially towards the end of the song, when you're kind of getting put under the pressure. A nice long spinner at the end for if we do have some very good low approach rate hidden teams to battle over spin. But yeah, I can see quite a lot of broken dreams and missed combos there.
Probably quite a lot of bans too, considering that is, of course, the lower AR hidden pick of the round.
So hidden number 2 is also going to be a custom map. This one is going to be Ongaku Resolve from Yuasahina. It's going to be 2 minutes in length, 170 BPM, slightly faster than the previous pick. And this is going to be a circle size of 4.7. So whilst the approach rate has been ticked back up to 9.1, something that people will probably be a little more comfortable with, circle size is a very kind of strange, uncommon value where it's like not quite as precise as CS5, but it's certainly a lot more precise than the CS 4.4, 4.5 that you would find on a lot of fairly common meta overdoses of the modern age.
Oh yeah, you would never really see 4.7 on a range, you know. The more I'm looking at this, is more like, this is probably an overdose considering, look at the star rating, look at the circle size, everything except for the approach rate, which even then is still pretty high. Plus we have the constant timing changes as we see. Look at the bottom right, you see the BPM just ever changing. A lot of these snaps pretty difficult in these streams.
I think the BPM changing is a little bit deceptive. The timing changes should all be very well kind of telegraphed, and it's not as kind of spooky, scary. Never know what BPM the next note's going to follow, as that range of timing BPMs possibly suggests.
You know, I'd be willing to say this map looks probably harder than some of the Nomad picks, if I'm being honest.
There's certainly some fail potential there. I mean, not that it's going to matter too much when no fail is forced in this year's World Cup, but there's definitely a huge potential for dropping a lot of score and combo on some of those long buzz streams coming after strong hyper dashes with Hidden. And again, a nice little spinner to end on if anyone does manage to get their team across the line with full combo. Anyways,
moving on to Hidden 3, got probably a fan favorite song in the catch community, considering how many maps of this we've had. We have Area Blast, Kigari Naki, Barajuji, one of the favorites. It is a convert this time. It's not one of the catch maps of it. I'm sorry. But it is CS 3.8 AR9. Star rating, of course, is bugged on stream, so we'll get that star rating to you in a second.
Yeah, star rating for Left Insane is 4.27 as far as I'm aware. And this actually caught me out slightly because I look at the mapper kind of thing and it says My Angel Range, and I know that there are BN for catch that have gotten very active in the mode recently, and I thought, oh, there's no converts in this this year's World Cup. But no, this is, as you said, a convert from 2018, so probably from a little bit of a time before Range was active in catch.
Yep, definitely. And as this is the short version, it is coming at 222, not the good old 5-minute version that we all know and love.
Yeah, so key differences between this and previous picks in the hidden pool, aside from obviously it being a convert, BPM of 260. So a lot of these quarter and 1/2 jumps that you're seeing are much tighter than they would probably have been or might appear had the BPM been lower, and that is going to be exacerbated with the addition of hidden, especially considering some of these strong hyperdashes kind of tilt you in the wrong direction and then you're moving against the expected direction of flow.
You know, although this is a convert, this does have quite a few catch patterns. Like we saw those little 1/4 sliders with hypers. It was like, oh, that's a little catch pattern right there. That pattern right there is really fun to play from my experience as well, with the little going back with the hyper dashes.
Yeah, the addition of circle size 3.8 is going to make this maybe slightly more lenient than you'd expect, because at first glance, visually, I mean, I don't know about you, but it doesn't really look that different from CS4. You just kind of feel that there are more occasions where I don't know if I deserve to catch that, but I did, so I'm happy and I'm just going to carry on as if nothing happened.
Definitely get that feeling. Has a lot of vertical patterns I noticed as well. Kind of seems to be the main theme.
Okay, it's hard rock time. Moving on to our second mod bracket, and it's going to be Raindrop Flower, Studio EIM. This is going to be a custom map provided by our selector, FD Fluorite, who's become very synonymous with quirky picks, off-meta settings in previous cups. And this one is going to be no different. So approach rate 9.8, which you'd maybe expect from the hard rock pool in CWC. But a circle size of 3, which is going to become, I believe, is this 3.9 in with hard rock?
Yep.
So aside from being kind of approach rate 9.8, this is going to be kind of a very comfortable circle size for a lot of people. But I imagine, since it's a Fluorite map, there will definitely be some jumps that require memorization, and of course you can hear the swing rhythm is going to introduce a lot of 1/3 and 1/4 snapped hyperdashes that are very strong. With the BPM of 110.
As you would expect from FD Fluorite, got a Maple Story song. Can always expect at least one World Cup. Last year we had, I think, the Tempo of Time OST. This year we got this one. I don't remember exactly which one this is from, but I do remember. I remember playing and seeing this. This map does look pretty challenging though for hard rock. There's a lot of weird snapping that you usually don't see in maps nowadays. It looks to be, as you said, swing, and a lot of these hyper dashes are very awkward to hit. This is probably a big step up from last year's hard rock, if I remember correctly, because we used to go like flatter hard rock, you know, you'd see that all the time. And although this is AR 9.8, not hitting that AR 10 mark, it's still really hard to read, I feel.
Yeah, so again, although there's the kind of the swing rhythm, a lot of the patterns are similar, but obviously all variations of one another. I feel like that this is a map that could start well and then get progressively worse if you're not very comfortable with that swing rhythm the later you go on into the pick. It could fall apart very easily, I imagine. But you were requesting Platter Hard Rocks. A sense of normality has been returned just for you. This is Rampage, Usao, mapped by Rockma, and again, just as the previous map, a custom pick. for this year's Catch World Cup. Slightly longer at 2.25 minutes, 195 BPM, so you can tell we really ramped up the pace here. And this is going to be a approach rate of 10, AR8 natively, so this is max speed as far as Hard Rock is concerned.
Yeah, in the intro I did see a little bit of a hard rock pattern there where one of the 1-4 notes got moved slightly to the right, so you need to like tap it a little bit. Usually you see that sometimes in platters, but it is one of the usual harder parts of a hard rock map. But it does seem pretty standard so far apart from that.
Whenever I see one of these hard rock platters, I look at it and think, oh, how can you be so kind of nice and innocent? And that's probably a walk on the kind of original intention, but when hard rock is added, things get moved around and all of a sudden that walk is an edge dash, and like very small dash is suddenly a hyper that flings you in the wrong direction, and you just kind of think to yourself, like, how did it come to this? Yeah, and again, an odd circle size of 3.7 is going to give us 4.8 when hard rock has been added, so a little smaller than people who are kind of very comfortable playing hard rock would normally be used to, but I don't think that should be too much of a problem. The factor here is certainly the BPM and a lot of the strong dashes that hard rock generates for us.
Oh yeah, in that little previous section I saw some patterns where it had a very strong 1/2 dash followed by a anti-roll 1/2 hyper dash. And usually you don't see those in platters, so it is pretty hard for a platter even. I'd be willing to say this is possibly getting onto the Lorraine level for a platter as well.
I'm an okay hard rock player, and I saw a very punishing pattern at 600 there with a strong hyper dash into like a very slight movement to the left that would almost certainly have caught me out. Hopefully that's not going to be too much of a problem. But our third and final hard rock pick is going to be a map that I'm very familiar with, Nanobe's Rainbow Road. This is the standard variant thereof from Natsu, the insane difficulty. 2 minutes 40 in length, BPM of 170, very standard circle size 5.2 with hard rock added, and again this is going to be approach rate 10. And you were saying about Kigaranaki that was a very popular catch map.
Oh yeah.
Well, this has two ranked sets for catch as well. So another one of those that people should be very familiar with.
It's also just one of those kind of nostalgic songs that you just know. You know, you just hear this and you're just like, man, Cat Jam. It's pretty much the
absolutely,
kind of vibe.
Yeah, it really is. It's a banger for sure.
You know, these kind of patterns have a bit of a sparsity to them as well. There's these 1-1 gaps that are in between a lot of these notes. It kind of makes you second guess where your next movement is going to go.
There's also quite a lot of like extended sliders from the Osu difficulty that transition into sharp dashes before the next note that will really be quite a punishing drop at this kind of approach rate. Definitely something where you have to look quite a bit ahead of where you actually are to keep up.
This section here I could see some people getting quite nervous on, because you would expect to move on a lot of those little dun 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 dun, you know, but sometimes you don't. And that little jump section right there was a bit catching me off guard as well, along with the stream section. It looks pretty hard, especially with these wiggles combined in there.
Yeah, those wiggles look just about stackable, so I'll be very interested to see if anyone does opt to try and balance those, or if everyone goes for the wiggling.
You know, I have a slight feeling that people are gonna just try to balance them just because they're nervous. So like, oh no, I don't want to miss. They're gonna try to balance them. They're gonna miss. And it's gonna be not a good day for them.
Yeah, some of those short dashes from extended sliders into circles look really punishing.
Yeah, and then we have
going to be a couple of
spinner followed by
spinners to follow.
Yeah.
Okay, so Hard Rock concluded. Just one mod left before we find our tiebreaker. And starting with Double Time is going to be As You Like It by Eve. This is going to be a map from Giga Chad, or Dako, if you aren't familiar with his transition to the Alpha realm. It's going to be a custom map for this tournament. It is going to be 3 minutes 50 in length. It's going to get shortened a little bit with Double Time, I think down to about 2.5 minutes. BPM of just over 210. 215 is the average BPM here. And again, this is going to be approach rate of 7.5, which Double Time's up to 9.3.
You know, I'm looking at this and man, some of these little double patterns, they look really hard. Looking at this, it's pretty hard for a platter, but it's also pretty nice. It's one of those kind of platters that it looks a lot harder than it actually plays, I feel. Also, shout out to Eve. Music is honestly incredible. Glad that this song was picked for custom map group stage.
Lots of let's goes in the chat. Very pog, very hyped to see. Glad you're all enjoying. I think it is officially like we're within about kind of 10 minutes of the tiebreaker, so if anyone wants to guess at what tiebreaker might be or who mapped it, then please feel free to drop that in chat. And in the meantime, we'll enjoy the rest of our Double Time pool. Some pretty punishing quarter dashes looking like here. I mean, this is low BPM as far as Double Time is concerned. But yeah, I can imagine that, in addition to the hypers and the wiggles, some of those little quarter dashes like that could definitely catch people out. You really want to try and move before you probably think you can, so that you keep up with the pace, but doing so will probably make you miss slider ends, which is obviously not a good idea.
Oh yeah, there are a lot of 1-4 dashes as well, which you usually don't see that often in platter nowadays. Kind of see them mostly in Euro platters, honestly, GB.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, that's something that I carried on doing for the longest time, and people kind of said, like, no, you should make it more clean and lower the density. But nice to see someone is carrying on the flame of making annoyingly difficult quarter dashes and platters.
Oh yeah, and also I've seen a lot of vertical patterns in this map, which you usually don't see as much as well, so it's pretty different compared to your average platter, I'd say.
Just listening to that guitar solo at the end made me wonder what, like, Double Time of this map, if it was like, if every object was mapped, would look like. I think it would be kind of mental.
Oh boy. Anyways, going on to DT number 2. It's my map. Surprise, surprise. I did not expect this actually, but it is Shiroyuki no Princess Wa from Minato Aqua. VTuber and CWC, we have finally done it, boys.
This is something that you either love or couldn't care less about. You're obviously in the former camp, and I'm not so sold, but congrats on getting your map selected all the same.
Thank you, thank you. Anyways, this map is coming in. It's going to be pretty standard, I'd say. CS 3.5, AR8. It's 420 length. Pretty long for a DT pick, but it is, like I said, pretty standard. You just got these typical patterns, some pretty stronger key eyes, I'd say. Got some double dashes with the 1/2s.
Yeah, so unlike the previous pick, which was 9.3, this is going to be our very standard 9.67 approach rate for Double Time that anyone who's played platters or kind of low-level reigns first picks up when trying to get into Double Time of specifics. So very comfortable approach rate for anyone involved in that. And circle size of 3.5 is also fairly generous. So am I right in thinking that the BPM and obviously the increased length are more of the challenge here?
Oh yeah, definitely. The BPM is probably the harder part of it, along with these kind of patterns that are, like I saw right there. There's a double 1/2 dash, which usually you don't see that often in platters. Not that much anymore nowadays. There's also this guitar solo coming in here that has some vertical patterns you saw right there that are a bit challenging and different.
Looks like you've got lots of support in the chat, so hopefully people will be happy to see this one played. As someone who's very used to getting their maps banned, I don't think you'll be having that problem.
I mean, I could see some people banning it just because of the song, but we will see. It depends on if those certain people have enough weight in their team to be like, I do not want to play this, ban it. You know? Anyway,
because
VTI. Yeah, I could see that honestly being a legitimate reason for some people, but this last Ki does pick up things quite a bit, gets a little bit harder with some more anti-flows and more hyper dashes.
Yeah, a couple of those like horizontal sliders, the SV looked pretty punishing. I wouldn't want to be stopping my dash too early and missing a slider tail here. That would be quite sad. But flow-wise, looks kind of pretty manageable throughout.
Yep. Of course, got a nice long sprinter at the end. Got to get them bananas.
So double time number 3, and if you're a Yorishka fan, then yeah, welcome back to the double time pool. This is our convert, Yunagi Bo Madoi, sorry, by Delis. This one is going to be the fastest pick in the double time pool at a fairly eccentric 330 BPM with some parts that are even faster than that. It is going to be slightly shorter at only about 2 minutes long, however. And fairly standard circle size of 4 and approach rate of 9.7.
Yeah, everybody loves Yorishika. We went from VTubers to Yorishika, so that's quite a big swing in the polarizing department. Some of these little 1-4 dashes seem to be pretty difficult, but it is kind of gonna be your typical airy deep sea convert stage.
Yeah, all about keeping your kind of precarious balance in the dense but low movement parts, and then dashing at the perfect time to not miss the last note in the sequence when you're moving on to the strong dash, as you were talking about. Some of those 1/4 dashes are pretty punishing, and as you can expect from Convert, lots of unexpected direction changes, unexpected changes in distancing, and like dash strength as well.
That little stream right there, it had some little slanted sliders, called them stairs, but they were kind of walkable. Gonna be interesting to see who actually tries to wiggle on those stairs. I don't think many people will, but you never know.
You need some pretty good balance for DT wiggles, especially at this BPM.
Oh
but,
yeah.
Power to anyone who goes for it, of course.
Got some more wiggles coming in there too. Overall, this is a pretty big step up from last year's World Cup, I believe.
Yeah, this looks very, very micro heavy throughout, and I think all of the DT picks that have been selected are, again, slightly above what we've seen in previous. There's very little, like, what we would consider, like, low BPM, low density, where it's kind of all focusing on the reading.
Next, we have the tiebreaker. I don't know, I don't think anyone guessed who the mapper was, but it is going to be our favorite nat, one of our favorite nats, probably. We only have 3 of them. Greeper coming in with Muzzy Spectrum. Custom map for CWC.
Yeah, so if you guessed Greeper, then congratulations, you win an imaginary internet point, which you can make sure not to spend all at once or waste. But yeah, it's going to be Spectrum, as you said. It's going to be typical 5 minutes, 23 seconds in length, so that marathon length that we've come to expect from tiebreakers in World Cups. A BPM of 175 and a cycle size of 4.4, so maybe slightly above or below, depending on whether you're a hard rock enjoyer or a no-mod enjoyer.
Average no-mod enjoyer.
If you're an average no-mod enjoyer, then this is maybe a little bit higher CS than you're used to, but if you're a Chad hard rock enjoyer, then yeah, cycle size, the fruits are so big.
You know, there's only one Chad in those who catch it, it's Giga Chad.
Giga Chad, let's go.
Love that name. Anyways, yeah, coming in pretty slow in the start, as you would expect. You know, gotta get that tiebreaker.
Ooh, yeah, I was just about to say, yeah, building the tiebreaker hype. It's been a while since we've had kind of the level of tiebreakers that we saw in, I think it was maybe 2018, 2018, where we saw like
Yeah,
14 tiebreakers or something ridiculous like that. So I wouldn't mind listening to this a few times if we saw this in several of our group stage matches.
Oh,
Ooh,
that's
it's
hilarious.
definitely a spinner bait. That is 100% a spinner bait.
I think it's actually like, if you follow the max spin path, I think you're fine. But I could see some people who are not as well versed in spinning definitely get caught up in that, because it does end right before it starts.
Yeah, right at the beginning of the showcase, I was saying that we were seeing the maps for the first time, and I was kind of visualizing them as they were being played, and I was like, in my mind's eye, imitating my hands on the keyboard, and I saw myself get spinner baited like in real time. Yeah, hopefully everyone is picking a note of that one to not let that happen to them.
That's always painful. These little hyper sliders that we're seeing, kind of reminiscent of that one Momox Nomon map. Oh yeah, we're seeing it kick up quite a bit here. We're getting some 1-4 hyper dashes as well, building up the streams toward, I'm assuming, what's going to be the drop rate about coming in.
Ooh, that slider was very interesting in shape. We haven't seen a lot of sliders like that in quite a while, or at least I don't remember seeing any in recent memory. And then there's some hyper sliders there as well.
Oh yeah, that angle right there on the last 1-4 was a bit punishing as well. Definitely see some misses right before that little small break. We also had an extended 3-4 slider that I saw. We haven't really seen much of this map.
Looks like we're getting a nice, fairly calm section, although there are a couple of hyper dashes there. But building back into a more intense section now with more 1/4 hyper dashes, a lot more anti-flow appearing now than we've seen before. Very little normal flow here at all anymore.
This is probably the hardest part of the map, I'd say, with quite a margin too. Kind of like ramped up really fast, seeing these 1-4 mixed with 1/2 hyper dashes.
Closing in the final kind of 30 seconds now. Will there be another drop right towards the end? I'm not intimately familiar with this song, Fred.
No, I'm not sure myself, but it looks like there's probably going to be like one little mini stream, I feel.
You can definitely see some of the spacing is getting bigger here, even if the like density or the frequency of hyper dashes isn't.
Here's that one little mini stream in the map. Ooh, that was a far hyper dash right at the
That
end
was,
there.
yeah, hype for like the 1/4 hyper dash chain into that half looked quite punishing.
Yeah.
I mean, a miss right at the very end there isn't going to be hugely punishing, but yeah, that looked pretty difficult.
How many FCs do you think we're going to see missed right on that last final stream?
I think it could be, it could definitely be a possibility, but as I said, hopefully it doesn't sway a win one way or the other, or maybe it does. Some hype matches coming up for sure.
Oh, that would be so painful. But anyways, that does wrap up our Mappool showcase for Group Stage CWC 2021.
Yeah, so quick reminder to everyone who's maybe just tuning in. Changes from last year, only 4 no mod picks in the group stages certainly, and then more picks will be added in later rounds, and only 1 ban. So 4 no mod maps, 3 specifics and 1 convert, and then in each of the 3 mod brackets, hidden, hard rock and double time, similar to what we've seen before, 3 picks, 2 of which are specifics and 1 of which is a convert. Followed up of course by Spectrum, the tiebreaker that you just saw. So yeah, we'll be looking forward to all of those picks in our group stages, which start next week. You saw all of our drawings and which teams are going to be playing against whom. Schedules will all come out on the wiki as soon as they are able to do so. Let the selectors and the organizers have a little bit of time to make everything nice and beautiful and pretty and accessible for us. But yeah, that's it from myself, JB Hyperion. And any last words from you, Seka?
No, I think that's about it. Looking like a pretty good map pool this time around. I'm pretty glad that we got custom maps this year. Pretty good addition, I'd say.
Yeah, 8 custom maps in total out of the 14 picks on offer. So yeah, really good to see. Lots of promising mappers coming through, and lots of veterans, of course, coming back to offer to Mappool and create maps for the tournament. So I hope you all look forward to those. And we look forward to seeing you all next week for Fruit Catching World Cup action. It's going to be excellent. I would say don't go anywhere, but I wouldn't want you all to wait here without food or water for a week. So I will say we will see you all again very, very soon. Thank you so much for watching.
The classic, see you next time.
Changing, the knowing feeling could make you fall from the dreamy skies. Suddenly the deepness can get through. Realize I fall along with you, and you're looking into cold green eyes. Ooh. Changing, the knowing feeling could make you fall from the dreamy skies.